This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
It is Sports 225. My guest tonight is Matt Moscona. He's sitting in the other chair. He of radio fame, but and normally all we do is cut up and giggle and stuff. But I do want to start the first segment, unfortunately, on a little more somber note. A really good friend of the Louisiana sports media community, Marty Mule, died this past week of a heart attack. He's age 73 and was just the greatest guy. He wrote a lot of books. He chronicled more sports and was a historian about, especially LSU, than anyone you've ever could have imagined. Matt got a chance to interview him when his book came out. And the most recent book he had, he came on this show. It was December of 2013. And the segment that you're about to see I really like, not only because it went really well and it was fun to talk to Marty, but we happen to talk about his life history and how he got to that point. And so I hope you'll enjoy this next bit. And those of you who knew Marty, you know, it's a sad loss, and you'll especially enjoy these memories. The best part about this segment to start with is that you're not seeing my face, but you're seeing this book, Game Changer. It's by Marty Mule, and it's about Louisiana sports. The actual subtitle is The Rousing Legacy of Louisiana Sports by longtime sports writer Marty Mule, who, man, you had a long career at the Picayune.
33 years.
That's all?
Yeah.
Wow. Where'd you grow up in New Orleans?
In the Irish Channel.
No kidding.
Yes.
A little different today than it was then, huh?
Yeah, infinitely different.
And where'd you go to high school?
Redemptorist.
Redemption. And what is that high school now, or is it not even?
It doesn't exist anymore.
No kidding.
It evolved to Redeemer Seton, and then after Katrina, it was gone.
When you were a kid, did you pay attention to sports like a lot of fanatics do, and then become sports writers?
Infinitely. I mean, it's almost amazing how pumped up you could get reading about some of these exploits and so forth. And I always had as much admiration for the people who conveyed the stories, the writers and commentators, as I did for the athletes. I don't know where it came from, but I always admired them as much as the athletes.
So tell us how you got started in the whole thing.
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I once wrote to John Jolly, who was the prep editor at the Times-Picayune, asking for a chance to cover a game. And I sent him a handwritten account of some game that I saw on television. And I never, ever got a response. But I did the same thing with the legendary sportscaster, Hap Glaudy. And Hap sent me a letter in a way trying to dissuade me, because he says it's not profitable, it's hard work, it's more than you think, and so forth. But
and he was right.
He was absolutely right. But he added, but if you'd like some insights and so forth on how all of this works, come join me down at the station. And so I started a couple of years ago going down to Channel 4 and watching him do.
So you were like a high school kid at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting a sense of what it was all about.
Well, when did you first get on with the Picayune? You were still a kid, though, right?
Oh, no.
No?
I was,
as an adult?
I worked in Florida and Mississippi. I worked in several places before I ever got on
I didn't know
at the
that.
Times-Picayune.
Yeah. Where were you then?
In Pensacola, Pascagoula, Mississippi, and I'd done some freelance stuff that received some good notice and so forth. And when there was an opening, Bob Rossler, my old boss.
What a great guy.
He is.
And for those of you who are from New Orleans, and you're hearing some of the stuff he's talking about, the Irish Channel, the old Redemptorist High School, Hap Glaudy, who was a legendary guy. I got to meet him once way back. And you know, of course, Bob Rossler, who I got to know very well and was very fond of. You know, you have to be enjoying this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Bob hired you at the Picayune.
Right.
That must have been a big deal to come home.
Well, it was a big deal, and it was and it was one of those all of a sudden you feel like this is where I should be.
Well, you know, this might shock you, Marty, but you sound like you're from New Orleans too. Sheesh. In your time at the Picayune, you pretty much covered everything. I mean, you covered everything from great prep stuff to LSU to the Saints. And as a result of that, I mean, you've written a few books. Right. And this last one, the reason why, you know, the hook for getting him here was this book, Game Changers. And I got to tell you, it's from the University of Louisiana Lafayette Press, which is unusual. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. But the stories in here are really cool. And is there a website where people can go to see this book?
Yes, LouisianaGameChangers.com.
Okay. Yeah. And
at Louisiana at Louisiana.com.
Yeah. I'm trying to see where I had written that down, you know, because if you watch this show, you know how bad I am at this stuff. You know, I forget. Anyway, the book is awesome. It's a Christmas time present. It's good for you as a just a sports fan. But anyway, let's talk about a couple of the other books you wrote.
Okay.
One of God, I'm having total blankouts. You got to help me.
History of the Sugar Bowl.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I did a thing on the Superdome, the building of the Superdome, and everything that went into that, and so forth. Game of my life. LSU players reliving the game that meant the most to them while they were Tigers.
And that was one you did after you left the newspaper business.
I was actually doing it at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sugar Bowl is interesting because when you walk out of the Riley Center on the Tulane campus and you come out the front there now, there's a big grassy area where the kids play soccer, there's a little bit of flag football, and then off to the side there's that little plaque that says the old Tulane Stadium was here and they actually played Super Bowls there.
Yeah, they played, I think, 4 Super Bowls there, and it had a storied history.
It was where the Sugar Bowl was competed, right?
Correct.
When was your first Sugar Bowl?
The first Sugar Bowl I saw, I think, was 1961, which was Alabama and Arkansas.
Wow.
Alabama, that was Bear Bryant's first national championship team.
So you saw Bear Bryant win his first national championship in the Sugar Bowl.
Well, actually, he had already won it.
Yeah, because back then they did it before the bowl, right?
But they did it before the bowls, that's right. And so he had already won it, and it was a struggle. I think the score was like 10-3, something like this. But it completed an unbeaten season.
The late Marty Mule, he was 73, a great guy, and we'll all miss him in the Louisiana media community and in Louisiana sports on so many levels.